Hey everybody, Mike Toy here with Bonsai Boise. Here's a couple of privets that I've had for 4 or 5 years. They started as cuttings. I can't remember the entire backstory, but I think I bought just a main plant and it was on clearance for like $3 if I remember right. Took a bunch of cuttings from it and this is what they look like now. That one's kind of cool, I think. Just the shape, the direction it's headed. I would still consider them twigs and pots. But let's go back in time here. There's a video I made back in 2019, August 2019. So those are just some cuttings that I had stuck in a pot. Pretty healthy looking. Not sure when I actually did that. This is just when I decided to repot them into some individual pots. So I wish I could remember the whole backstory. I can't even remember what happened to the main plant. I don't think it was that impressive anyways, but must have died. And if I remember correctly, this is called a golden, I can't remember now. If I can remember, I'll put the name of it. It's a golden something privet. Anyway, so it looks like I potted up 4 individual ones here. And I haven't really done much with them since this. I mean, I prune them here and there and water them. And that's about it. So out of those 4 cuttings and the main plant, 2 of the cuttings have survived. You can see there that the buds are getting ready to pop. So this is the perfect time of year to do this. And my plan is just to give them like a little light pruning, do a little bit of branch selection, come up with kind of a rough idea of what I want to do. I think I'm going to continue to follow that leader there. I sort of like the little hook shape. Then you got this guy who just doesn't know what it wants to do. I'll say that what I've learned about these privets, and everything that I say take with a grain of salt because I haven't done a lot of research on them. I'm just talking from my experience with these, but they are semi-evergreen. So I can remember there was a winter that they did lose all their leaves, and then there was a winter that they didn't lose any leaves. And here's a perfect example of where it lost like half its leaves. The bark's kind of gnarly looking down there. It's kind of cool. Makes it look older. Still small though. Still twigs in the pot. So these are just pre-Bonsai. But they're on their way. They're pretty tough. For what it's worth, just noteworthy. Last spring, so spring of 2022, one of these 2 privets, I don't remember which one, the bark turned kind of black, almost like it was sitting next to a chimney or something. And I don't know how to explain it. One did and one didn't. So I'd never seen it happening. It kind of went away and it didn't happen this year. Anybody knows what the cause of that might have been. Don't think it was mold. Because they're both under the same conditions. But only one of them did it. But anyways, that was last year. That was so last year. This is this year. So I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. Cleaning up any nubs from previous cuts and anything that's growing in the opposite direction that I would prefer. Trying not to get too brutal with it if I can help it. Following the same general bonsai principles that I would normally follow, which is you want one branch to split into 2 and then 2 into 4, etc. You don't want one branch to split into 3 because that's how you get reverse taper. I know I sound like a broken record. I say that all the time, but it's, I never know who's watching for the first time and doesn't know. So when you have more than 2 branches coming out of one cut, that reverse taper happens. You get a big growth bulge in a weird spot. It just looks goofy and awkward. And you want to avoid that. It takes a while to correct it. So as you can see, I don't really know what I'm doing here with this one. I'm just sort of cleaning it up and making some cuts. I don't have a solid plan for it yet, at least. And they're still in development too, so that's worth noting. When they're this young and they're still in development, I don't always have a solid plan. It's kind of not worth coming up with a solid plan, in my mind, because you don't know what's going to happen. It can grow in 1,000 different ways between now and a few years from now. And so your plans just go out the window, or it could have dieback, or whatever. So you just follow the general principles, and you want to keep it in a good condition, structurally speaking, so that as it does get older and thicker and more ready to be bonsaied or bonsai ready, then you don't have to correct a bunch of stuff. It's kind of just already ready to go. So here's the other one. I gotta come up with cool names for these two so I can tell them apart. Now taking ideas for cool names for these two. This one's got some cool movement to it. I do like that. See, the buds are just about to burst open on here. Not sure if I mentioned, but it's mid to late March 2023. These privets are some of the first ones to start popping their buds. Most of my other deciduous trees outside are still dormant. Believe me, I check every day. I'm ready to get to work on them. So you can see where the movement goes. You've got the main trunk going up. You got that first branch there on the bottom left, and then the trunk kind of goes off to a hard left there. So that was right there where I'm pointing. So I still like the movement there. I'm going to follow that, but it's got that sort of scarring, that big nub right where I made a big cut, whenever that was. I don't even remember. Must have been a couple years ago. We'll try and make a cutting out of that. That's growing back into the tree, so we want to lose that. And on any branches that are more than 2 or 3 nodes or sets of leaves, I'm just going to take it back to 1. And I do that for 2 reasons. The main reason is movement. That way, when it grows again, it grows in a slightly different direction. Hopefully only slightly and not drastically, which gives it character. So that's how you get all that cool movement, is by making cuts like this. And the other reason is taper. Though you don't notice it right away. It takes several seasons of doing that over and over and over, but that's how you get it. It's not the only way you can get taper. It's worth noting. The other way is to make big cuts. So you let it grow for 5-10 years, then you make a big trunk chop. And it sprouts a new leader, and then over the next few years, that skinny little leader sort of starts to blend in with the big fat trunk where you did the trunk chop, and that's how you get a more dramatic taper. But these are so little and young that we're not ready for that. Just continuing to clean these up here. A couple other noteworthy items for my plans on these. I am going to repot them because they've been in the same soil for at least 2 or 3 years now. But I'm not going to pot them into bonsai pots. I'm just going to keep them in their training pots because, like I said, they're still in development. So I want those roots to grow, big and deep and full, so that it can get nice and healthy. In the meantime, I'm going to chip away at this little nub here where the trunk chop was. I want it to be a smoother transition and less scarring and how it grows over like that. Try and smooth that out. I have overdone it on this type of thing right here before. Cut too deep and the whole top half dies off, so try to be somewhat mindful. So I do hope over time that it can sort of retain this shape that it's got. Who knows? So another style as well I'll point out is hedge pruning. Hedge pruning is when you don't do what I'm doing now. You just simply let it grow wild, and then a couple times a year, strategic points, usually the end of the spring growth and then the end of the summer growth, you just prune it back to a general shape, like a size, I should say. So imagine like the size of a basketball. You just prune it down into that shape. Cut right through leaves, branches, everything. You give no thought whatsoever to the structure. That is actually healthier, to be honest. And they do grow faster that way and get thicker. They're just ugly the whole time, so not as fun. I don't know, I've debated about this, but anyways, look at all those roots. I'll give you a little spoiler alert. I've had good luck and I've had bad luck when it comes to root systems. This time, I had some good luck. I don't even know how. You'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about. I mean, it's been in this little gallon training pot for a few years. I think I must have potted it up the following spring, so it would have been maybe spring of 2020. Something like that. So about 3 years ago. So no root work has ever been done to this, ever. Yet, what you're about to see here, I've got 2 root planes. I've got, look at that, see that? That's trunk, basically. Because remember, it was a cutting. So I've got 2 root planes, one underneath and one up top. Ultimately in bonsai, that's what you want. You want just a flat root plane so that it can fit in a bonsai pot. You want to grow laterally instead of horizontally. Usually when they grow wild in a training pot, those roots are going all different directions. They go down and then curl around and then back up, and they tie themselves in a knot, and it's just a mess. This time, I just lucked out. Look at that. So because of my stroke of luck here, I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I should do it more, but I don't. I'm going to put something underneath it. So there's the new soil. I'm going to take this little, that's just a lid from one of my pre-workouts containers. And I'm just going to set the root plane down on that to maintain that flat root base. But the roots can still grow outside of that little lid and down into the soil. So therefore it still will have a deep pot for the roots to grow and get healthy, but without losing that flat root plane. At least in theory. Sometimes trees find a way to screw it up. So yeah. So there it go. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'd see that sometimes I'm a little lazy about doing root work and I kind of let it go, especially if they're in development. And then I have really just ugly roots to deal with later. And sometimes I just have bad luck. I pull it out and it's just a terrible root situation. So this was a very fortunate, happy stroke of luck for me. I'm very happy. And even though this is in very fast forward mode here, I'm just sort of lightly tapping the top of it just so that some soil can fall in between the roots and a little bit under it. In other words, in between the roots and that container lid. just so it's not flat up against plastic. It's still got some soil to hold the temperature and maintain some temperature and some safety for it. Stick some rocks in there just to help stabilize it. That one's a goofy shape, but since I'm on a roll with good luck, check this out. Look at that. It's like it was just made to fit right up against it and hold it up like that. I'm just gonna rush out and buy a lotto ticket because, man, this is a lot of good luck all at once. So that's it for number 1. Let's see if we can keep the streak alive with number 2. Look at that, it's like a little bottom jaw. Wah, wah. The soil is really heavy in organics. I don't know if that had anything to do with why the root system was the way it was or not. But wouldn't you know it? How's that for some good luck again? I swear, Scout's honor, I've done no root work on either of these things, ever. They were just cuttings. So how they did this on their own, I have no idea. Look how heavy the organics are in that soil. Not good. I guess it was good. Maybe I shouldn't complain. So I'm just gonna trim the roots back here, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the first one. I'm gonna find a lid, a little plastic lid, just to help maintain that flat root base. I mean, hey, when you catch a shooting star, good luck, man. You gotta make the most of it. I won't bore you with all the nitty gritty there. That was just a Tupperware lid that I cut the outside ridge off, and it's just what I could find. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Gonna set it right on top, let the roots grow around the outside of that lid so that they can still go down into the container, get real nice and healthy, and they can do whatever they want down there. They can get thick, they can grow upside down, doesn't matter. I mean, it kind of matters a little because they could get real root heavy on one side and could stay bare on the other side. So I'm gonna hope that doesn't happen, but ultimately, whatever happens under that lid's not gonna make the final cut anyways, most likely. But that flat root system will. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just trying to gently tap that soil underneath. Get a little bit of soil underneath it. I should just put a little soil underneath it, but twice in a row I didn't think of it until after. Work the soil into the roots on the sides and on the top. Yeah. Give it a good watering. So I'm excited for the future on these 2 privets. They've been really, hardy so far, which I believe privets are supposed to be. They kind of grow like weeds in some spots. They're hedges basically. So this is probably the most love and attention I've ever given them. So thank you, privets, and thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I've got a lot of species. Do updates all the time, so you can see updates on this and others. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.